Hi, Peter Charles here, folks, for Life Fly Fishing. And in this video, we're going to look at fishing that rabbit strip jig that I tied in my previous video. It's based on my headstander fly, and the headstander is wonderfully effective. It catches tons and tons of smallmouth. Now, the one issue that I raised was that this jig has a long wing. Now, that's not going to be a problem for largemouth bass. If you have ever seen underwater footage of largemouth taking in a prey or soft plastic swim bait or something like that, they just suck it right in. They just open their mouth and create this huge vacuum and haul in the prey. They engulf it. So if you're fishing this jig for largemouth, it's not going to be a problem. You're going to have lots of hookups. However, if you see footage of smallmouth, they often bite before they inhale. And so as a consequence, with that long wing, you stand a chance of missing some smallmouth. So I'm going to go fishing, and you'll see in the footage, go fishing for smallmouth. And not only that, I'm going to go in a very high pressured area. It's a piece of the river where I did my soft plastic versus fly video. And it's highly pressured. It really gets hammered on weekends. And there's a fair number of small bass in there, but the big ones are pretty well cleaned out. So we're going to go in there with that long rabbit strip jig and see how I did. So let's go check it out. Okay, we're back in the same area of river that my last video was shot in, where we were doing the flies versus soft plastic. This time I'm going to be working upstream. Oh, that was a fish. One of the issues I'm going to have to face with this is the tail is very long, as you can see here. That long tail may be a problem for smaller bass. They may not be able to hook up with it, but we'll see. We've got quite the wind today, so it's going to be a challenge. And I'm casting into the wind. Now this is a very heavily pressured stretch of water. Like there's nobody out today, but it's the middle of the week. But weekends, it's just a small army of fishermen out here. So the bass in here get pounded, and they don't, well, many of them don't release. So these fish end up getting, the numbers are reduced over the course of a season severely. It's amazing there's any fish left in here. I mean, this is urban fishing. Ooh, that was a fish. See, that's the problem with the long tail. I might have to chop this tail down for smallmouth. I think it would be fine for largemouth just the way it is, but I think for smallmouth I might have to reduce the tail length. So we're going to work this two ways. I'm starting going upstream first, and I'm casting upstream, and I just want to see how this is going to appeal to the fish. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way downstream, cover the same water basically in both directions, and see if there is a preference for the presentation being downstream or up. Unfortunately, because the jig is at the light end for the rod, and oh, that was a fish. I'm not able to reach the foam line over there. My headstander fly has a shorter wing than this, and I don't have trouble getting hookups on the headstander, so I'm thinking I'm going to take about an inch or so off of this when I get home, and because it is rather long. As I said though, I doubt if it would be a problem for largemouth, but smallmouth, as I say, I've had two, and they definitely grabbed the tail. You could feel it just the way they pulled. That could have been a small fish there too, grabbing the tail.
You know, you bounce along the bottom, and then all of a sudden one of the bounces seems to pull back. And that could very well have been a small fish just grabbing the long wing on this. I did feel a bit of a pullback on one of them. Because it's bouncing along. See, it's just bouncing on the bottom right now. And that really feels fishy, but it's bottom. And the difference is with when it's a fish, they pull back, the bottom pulls back. So I'm going to reorient myself downstream now. And I won't be casting against the wind, so that'll help a little bit. And we'll see if the fish like the downstream presentation. I'm going to go with a very slow retrieve and just let the current do the work. As soon as I feel bottom, I'll pick up the retrieve speed. There we go, there's bottom. Now on top of human predators in this stretch of the river, we have cormorants, we have bald eagles, we have osprey, we have herons. I mean, this is not a good place to be a young bass. There's a cormorant right there. Oh, there's the osprey. I heard him earlier. I'm getting close to where I had those hits earlier, so I'm wondering if those bass will come back for another try. Got one. He hit 2 or 3 times before he hooked up. This is not a big fish. At least I got one. He hit 2 or 3 times and felt thump, thump. And I thought, that's either a very lively bottom or a small bass. And he finally got enough of it in his mouth to hook up. Come here. Well, he's about a pound, so he's not that small. There we go. Yeah, I got bump, and then I thought that feels like a bit like a fish, and then he was on. So he took multiple hits at it. That's one of the advantages of rabbit being a natural material, is that you can sometimes get a fish, or if they just grab the wing of the rabbit, they don't feel the hook, and it's a natural material, so it feels like they're eating something that's real, and they'll come back for 2 or 3 tries. Now, I'm of two minds whether I want to shorten the wing or not. There's no question, oh, that felt rather fishy. There's no question in my mind that smaller bass are not going to hook up on this that well, because they'll be grabbing the wing and missing the hook. That fish was big enough that it could get the whole thing in its mouth. As I said earlier, largemouth, this is not going to be a problem. They'll grab the whole thing, but you know, the smaller smallies are probably going to have their problems getting a hold of it. The headstander fly has a shorter wing, and the fish don't seem to have any problem getting a hold of it. As say that other fish hit 2 or 3 times before he hooked up. I'm beginning to think that some of the bumps I was feeling that I thought was bottom, I'm having to begin to think that there were little ones grabbing the tail, or the wing I should say, because it's the wing of the jig. And I have a feeling it was small fish grabbing. Whoop! We just had something come to the surface. That was a fish. Oh, that was another fish. Last cast. Down to the tree again. There's the big tree with the cormorant.
Well, you can see I had something like 8 definite hits, 1 hookup. That fish hit it 2 to 3 times. You'll see my rod tip go like this from the fish hitting it. Finally hooked up. I probably had another 5 to 10 maybe hits. So rule number 1 is that this jig is incredibly effective at attracting fish in a highly pressured, difficult fishery. I mean, no problem getting hits. With smallmouth bass, especially small ones, trouble hooking up. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about how to rig a stinger hook on this. If you're fishing for smallmouth, you might want to use a stinger hook arrangement to get those short striking bass. So check out the next one. Cheers.